Hello everybody. I would like to introduce you to my dear friend Oscar. He wrote the following: "We can forgive a man for making a useful thing as long as he does not admire it. The only excuse for making a useless thing is that one admires it intensely." And then he added, "All art is quite useless." I'm not certain that all creators will agree with Oscar's stance that all art is quite useless. However, I'm pretty sure that they will side with him in believing that artistic creation goes beyond the making of a useful thing. It requires certainly an admiration for the art form in question and a drive, even an urge, to create something new and original, be it a painting, a theatre play, or a film. Of course, we all have in our minds images of what I will call the myth of the tortured, starving artist. And I'm sure everybody will agree that this myth should be or become a thing of the past. For this to happen, there are three essential elements that must be present: recognition, remuneration, and proper working conditions. The question is, how does legislation deal with these three essentials? And is there a need for improvement? Does the law ensure that creators get enough recognition for their work? How are creators remunerated for their work and receive a share of their success? What kind of legal measures would be needed to improve the working conditions of cultural and creative workers? Let's start with recognition. As you are all aware of, copyright law protects authors and other persons, natural and legal, involved in the creative process by providing them with a set of rights for a limited amount of time. This protection starts precisely with the recognition that a person is the author of a protected work, or that that person's intervention deserves the award of so-called neighboring rights. In many sectors, it is relatively easy to determine who is the author of a work. In the audiovisual sector, it is a bit more complicated, given the number of people involved in the production of a film and their different levels of creative input and decisional power. Also, different legal traditions have brought different solutions, with common law countries, like the US, for example, giving the producer a central role, while countries with an author rights tradition, most EU countries, put the author in the limelight. In the EU, this has been settled to a certain extent in Article 2 of the Directive on the Term of Protection of Copyright and Certain Related Rights. According to this directive, the principal director is considered as its author or one of its authors. Other co-authors could be, depending on the country, the author of the screenplay, the author of the dialogue, the composer of the music specifically created for a film, the director of photography, the stage designer, the costume designer, the sound engineer, and the editor. According to the Berne Convention, the author of a work has, among other rights, the so-called moral rights, that is, to claim authorship and to object to certain modifications of the work. These rights are fundamental in securing recognition for the author's work. Why is this relevant? Well, there are many reasons. Claiming authorship is fundamental for maintaining the author's reputation, including fighting against plagiarism. Furthermore, it is a conditio sine qua non for asserting ownership of rights and being able to transfer them and being remunerated for their exercise. Which leads me to the next issue: remuneration. Recognition is great, but as Bob Dylan said, you can't eat applause for breakfast. Even my friend Oscar got paid for his writing. You know what he once said: "When I was young, I thought that money was the most important thing in life. Now that I'm old, I know that it is." Again, you don't have to agree with him, but it is undeniable that money plays an important part in anybody's life, including a creator's life. Copyright provides for a set of economic rights that give rights holders control over certain acts related to the work or subject matter, so-called exclusive rights, and the right to receive remuneration for the use of the work, the so-called remuneration right. These rights are mostly harmonized at EU level by the directives you can see on the screen. The latest addition to the list is of particular relevance for our discussion today, the Directive on Copyright and Related Rights in the Digital Single Market. Among other issues, this directive contains a set of new measures to strengthen the position of authors and performers, including a principle of appropriate and proportionate remuneration, a transparency obligation concerning the exploitation of their works and performances, a contract adjustment mechanism to allow them to obtain a fair share when the remuneration originally agreed becomes disproportionately low compared to the success of their work or performance, a mechanism for the revocation of rights when their works are not being exploited, and a dispute resolution procedure. How good this system is will be surely an important part of the ensuing panel discussion. Coming back to my dear friend Oscar, money may be the most important thing in life, but is certainly not the only one. What is the point of getting money and awards if it is at the expense of your private life and or physical and mental health? Obviously, if we are to talk about working conditions, we have to go beyond copyright and enter the realm of labor law and social security. Because all creators involved in the production of a film or audiovisual work are workers, be it under a labor contract or as freelancers, and they have a set of rights and needs. The European Audiovisual Observatory has not done any extensive research on this topic so far. Nevertheless, we have noticed that there are signs coming from Brussels that point at the need for improvement in this field. In October 2021, a European Parliament resolution called on the European Commission to propose a European status of the artist, setting out a common framework for working conditions and minimum standards common to all EU countries through the adoption or application of a number of coherent and comprehensive guidelines with respect to, among others, the following: contracts, means of collective representation and management, social security, sickness and unemployment insurance, pension schemes, direct and indirect taxation, non-tariff barriers, and information asymmetries. The resolution also called on the Commission to map the existing definitions of artists and cultural workers across the Member States, with a view to developing a common understanding to be reflected in EU policy making and cultural statistics. Furthermore, it called on the Member States to ensure full access to social protection for artists and cultural workers regardless of their employment status, including access to unemployment allowance, healthcare, and pensions. Moreover, the resolution urged the Member States and the Commission to take specific measures for the different categories of creative professions in order to tackle unstable income, unpaid work, and job insecurity, and safeguard a minimum standard for their income. In March 2022, the Commission welcomed the Parliament's resolution, and with regard to the common framework for a European Statute of the Artist, the Commission expressed the need to reflect what can reasonably be done. I guess we will have to stay tuned to see what happens next. This was just a very short introduction to the many topics of today's conference. Now, by way of a conclusion, I would like to leave here a list of issues that may be picked up by the ensuing panel. The importance of the recognition as author and as worker. The difference between music authors and audiovisual authors as to the relevance of CMOs and alternatives to royalties. The impact of national traditions on how social matters are dealt with, since this is a matter where the EU has no exclusive competence. The importance of an adequate culture for making the rules effective, and the relevance of unions for collective bargaining and fair negotiations. Thank you.